Hey guys, it's Katie. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing my July reading wrap up. I don't know if you guys feel like this summer is going by so quickly, but I am like baffled that it's August. But July actually ended up being a really good reading month, not necessarily quantity wise, but quality wise. I had such a good mix of books. Like they're all very different genres. Like it's a very weird combination, but especially compared to June. June I read a ton. I think I read like 8 books or something, but I really disliked or hated 3 of them, which is like a lot I think to have in a month that you don't like. And so this month I don't have any books that I like really hated. I wrote the stats down so I could tell. I had 2 5-star reads, 1 4.5-star read, 1 4-star read, and then 2 3-star reads. So I finished 6 books this month, which I'm perfectly happy with. I'm only gonna be talking about 5 today though, so we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, if you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for clicking on my video. I link all of the books that I talk about down below in the description if you want to go learn more about them or anything like that. But other than that, let's just get straight into the books that I read this month. So the first book that I almost just spilled my energy drink all over my lap. We're good. The first book that I finished in July was Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Godlip, and this is the one that I'm not going to be talking about because I was a little too excited about it. I filmed my June wrap up late and I finished this within the first couple of days of July, so I just talked about this in my June wrap up. So if you want to learn more about this one, I would kindly direct you over there. I'll have that video linked down below. But this was one of my 5-star reads of this month. I loved it. This is a non-fiction memoir kind of deal about a therapist who goes through a pretty traumatic breakup and she starts seeing her own therapist. And it's just a very interesting insight into kind of how therapy works and what therapists look for and all of these connections that she made between the different clients that she had. And I swear to God, I said I wasn't going to talk about this book, but here we go. Reading this book made me feel like I was in therapy, like I was getting therapy from reading this book. I don't know how to describe it, but it was the most interesting reading experience that I've had so far this year. So I would highly recommend this one, and if you want to hear my thoughts on it, you can check out my June wrap up. Okay, so now moving on to the books that I'm actually going to talk about in this video. The first one that I finished this month was Fix Her Up. This is a romance novel, and honestly I didn't really know anything about this going into it. I had just seen a lot of people that I follow talking about it lately, especially on Twitter, and this was one of my 3-star reads. So to be fair, I don't read a ton of straight up romance. I'm kind of dipping my toes more into that genre now. I'm unfamiliar with it as a genre. I read a lot of books that have romance subplots, and I always loved the romance subplots. So I was like, hey, maybe I actually would like romance novels. And so as far as like the quality of this book in relation to other romance novels, I have no idea because I just don't tend to read the genre. The book follows Georgie, who's a professional clown. This is like literally her job. She puts on kids' birthday parties and things like that, and I think she's 23. And she has been madly in love with her older brother's friend her entire life, and he went on to be like a famous baseball player until he had this injury that took him out of the game. And so he's like wallowing in self-pity and stuff, and they've always been friends, but he's obviously always thought of her as his friend's younger sister. But she's the one who ends up like pulling him out of his funk and making him finally get out of bed. So if you're a fan of the fake dating trope, you'll probably enjoy this. Travis, the main love interest, now that he's been taken out of the game, is kind of up for this job on like a family TV station, but he has a really bad public image as a player, and so in order to get this job, he wants to come across as more like family friendly. And Georgie, her whole family just thinks of her as the kid of the family still, and she's really sick of it. And so in order to try and make people see her as more of an adult, the two decide to fake date. And it was enjoyable. I read this book in I think 24 hours. It was cute and it was fun, and I really liked our main character, Georgie. She's very well done. She's a very fleshed out main character. Like I got such a good sense of her, and I related to her as also the baby of my family on both sides. I am the absolute youngest person in my entire family, and no matter how old I get, I think everyone still kind of sees me like I'm 12 years old. So I really related to that storyline, and the book was cute. Like I enjoyed it. I'm a sucker for a good fake dating turns into real feelings scenario. Like who doesn't love that? But like I said, I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. There were just some things that I wasn't crazy about. I loved the main character, the main love interest, not so much. He wasn't terrible, but he definitely could have been fleshed out more, for one thing. And then also there were parts of his personality, which I guess is a type in romance novels. He's very possessive and aggressive. That rhymed. And that's just not my jam. You know, that like borderlines into like feeling kind of gross about that. Also, this book has a ton of like smutty scenes in it and stuff, and even those scenes were not fun to read. They were so cringy to me. He calls the main character baby girl so many times, and to me, once is too much. Like, I hate that. And there's a lot of dirty talk in the book, which by itself, like, isn't a problem, but the kind of dirty talk, like, I couldn't take it seriously. I was like, literally, if you saw my face reading this book, I was like reading those scenes because it was just so like cringy. And then also just from a craft perspective, I feel like the narrative was very messy. There wasn't a whole lot going on besides their relationship, which you would expect because it's a romance, but she still tried to throw in these subplots and these extra scenes to kind of give the narrative more bulk, and they felt like they were just thrown in there and they felt like they were unnecessary. Some things felt like very out of place, like why is this scene here? Why is this happening right now? And nothing really ended up developed aside from the main two characters' relationship. There's really not a plot, honestly. So yeah, this was really messy and trashy, but it was fun, so it did what I wanted it to do. I just wanted something to kind of get me in the mood to read again. I was in like a bit of a slump going into this book, so it cured me of that, and I read it in 24 hours. So if that's what you're looking for, I really enjoyed the book. Quality wise, it wasn't fantastic, but I wasn't expecting it to be. So the next book that I have to talk about was also a 3-star read. So we started off the month kind of slowly, but that means the rest of the books were awesome for me. And that was King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. I kind of talked about this in the reading vlog that I was filming at the time, which by the way, if you haven't seen it yet, I'm gonna link it down below because it went up during the reading rush when everyone was posting daily videos. So if you want to go give that vlog some love, it's been neglected. But yeah, if you don't know anything about this book, it's the first book in a spin-off duology for the Grisha trilogy and the Six of Crows duology, and we're following Nikolai, Zoya, and Nina. And honestly, I just found the book to be really slow and meandering and very bogged down in backstory, and I wasn't a huge fan of either of those series. Nikolai was my favorite character in the Grisha trilogy, which is why I really picked this up, but knowing where my enjoyment was with those two series, the 3-star rating was totally expected for me, honestly. Don't know if I'm gonna read the sequel, but if you really loved those first two series, you'll probably enjoy this a lot more than I did. There wasn't anything technically wrong with it other than I was just kind of bored, and I felt like there wasn't a lot of tension going through the book or a sense of stakes that made me want to read on. Like, it was really easy to put the book down. With that said, the ending was fantastic, so I just wish the build up to the ending would have kept me interested the whole time. So the next book I have to talk about, I'm really excited about. This is one of my favorite YA books that I've read so far this year. This was a 4.5 out of 5 stars for me. And that was Girls with Sharp Sticks by Suzanne Young. This is my first time reading one of her books. I think she's the most well known for her series The Program, and what got me to pick this up was I heard it described as a combination of Westworld and The Handmaid's Tale, and I love both of those things. So we're following our main character Mina, who goes to this private academy she stays at full-time. Like, she never goes home. She never gets to see her parents. It's a very strict, prim and proper school that's literally designed to teach girls how to be proper young women, hence the Handmaid's Tale kind of thing. And there's something weird going on with this school, and we know that there's some kind of underlying mystery, and I was so intrigued by that this whole book. Coming out of the King of Scars discussion, the tension and the stakes in here were clear throughout because I needed to know what the heck was going on. The mystery alone was enough to keep me reading. Yeah, I loved this book. I think it's so smart, but in a subtle way, it pokes at these really relevant social issues. And the reason why it's not a 5-star read for me was just because the ending was disappointing to me. Not like actually what happened in the ending, just the way that it was written, because I feel like the book did such a good job of showing its message and what it was trying to come across and not telling and not like shoving the message down your throat, you know? And then the ending, it was so inconsistent with the way that the rest of the book was written that all of a sudden I felt like it was screaming at me, this is the message of the book. And I was like, what the heck? You haven't done this the whole time and now you're choosing to do this? And so the way that the ending was written was a little bit disappointing to me. And then also the love interest in here, like, that's a very loose term. It's like a hint of a romance. The book really focuses on their situation and the friendships between all of the different girls at this school. And so I just kind of felt like the romance was unnecessary. The whole guy character was irrelevant and just kind of thrown in there, and every once in a while he'd pop up and you're just like, why are you here? But other than that, I really loved this book. It's the first book in a series. I am super excited for the next book, which actually made me love this book even more because it made me realize that I've been starting a lot of series lately but then I haven't wanted to continue on. I've just like felt no urge to pick up the next book in the series lately. And so the fact that I'm already like anticipating this sequel makes me really happy, because I haven't felt like that about a book in a while. I've just read the first book in a series and been okay to move on to something new. But now I'm so sucked into this world, I want the next book. So I would highly recommend this one. Obviously. The next book I have to talk about was the Unnie Mooners by Christina Lauren, which I just learned is 2 people. Did everyone else know that? This is a pen name for these 2 friends who write books together, and one of them is named Christina and one of them is named Lauren, and I didn't know. But yeah, I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. This is another romance. This is perfect if you like cutesy romance but you don't like all of the smut and the graphic sex scenes, because there's basically none of that in here, which I've seen be a complaint of other people who like that in their romance novels. So it's really all about your preferences. But this book follows our main character Olive, who is a twin, and after her twin sister gets married, everyone at the wedding gets extremely sick with this kind of food poisoning that lasts like weeks or months or something. She and the best man take her twin sister's honeymoon because it's like non-refundable, can't move it, all that kind of stuff. Her and the best man absolutely hate each other. So there are so many good romance tropes in this book. We have the hate to love, we have the there's only one bed, they're forced to be in close quarters with each other because they're going on a honeymoon together. So yeah, I thought this was really cute. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. This was again something that I read in like 24 hours. The only thing that made me dock it 1 star was I wish it had ended differently, but I don't want to say that here because I obviously don't want to spoil you on how it ends. I think the way that I wanted it to end just kind of shows off that I'm like a very stubborn and kind of bitter person. So if you've read this book, you might know what I'm talking about. But overall, I thought this was really cute. I listened to this one on audiobook and it was just something that was super easy to listen to. I flew through it. So I would definitely recommend reading it that way. I know they've written like I don't even know how many other books. There's a ton of books out there. And one of my friends has been like going through all of her books and she said that this one was her favorite so far, which is why I picked this one up. So if you're gonna start with one of her books, apparently this is a good place to start. And then the last book that I have to talk about that I finished in July was A Torch Against the Night by Saba Tahir, which is the sequel to An Ember in the Ashes. And I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. An Ember in the Ashes was our book club pick for June. And afterwards I was like, I don't know if I'm going to continue on with the series. And then I saw the audiobook for A Torch Against the Night pop up on my Libby app. And I was like, well, it's here. I don't have to spend any money on it. I guess I'll just start listening to it. And then like an hour into it, I couldn't stop listening to it. I finished this book in like 2 days. This series is really growing on me. I've had such a weird relationship with this series because the whole first half of An Ember in the Ashes, I could sort of take it or leave it. It was good, but it wasn't really pulling me in. And then by the end of it, I was like, okay, damn, this was really good. I get the hype. But it still wasn't like my favorite series. There was still some kind of disconnect with me. Don't know why. And then I pick up Torch Against the Night. And this book was so good. Just like objectively, not even like my enjoyment of it, just objectively the way that she foreshadowed things and had things set up and had all of these things come together and the way that she created tension, like objectively, this book was so well done. I feel like there is a big difference between a book that it's really great, you really enjoyed it, and then a book that you just feel like, I don't know how to explain this, and it might be more of like me appreciating her as a writer than as a reader, but when you just feel like you're in good hands of an author and they just have like a mastery over this book. Does any of this make sense? I don't know how to explain this, but basically the book was really freaking good and I'm really happy that I ended up continuing on with the series, and I've already started A Reaper at the Gates audiobook. So if you were iffy about the series like I was, I would totally recommend continuing on with the series. I was very pleasantly surprised. And this book has redeemed Elien for me so much. I really did not care for her character in the first book, but this second book made me feel for her so much. It made me care about her so much. When I first saw that she had a point of view, I was like, oh my god, I have to follow this girl around. And then by the end of it, she was like one of my favorite characters. I love when a book can do that, when they can just make me completely change my mind about a character. We just completely lost my light. But that's okay. Those are all the books that I finished in July. If you've read any of them, make sure to leave me a comment down below. I would love to hear your thoughts on them, or tell me what your favorite book that you read in July is. I'm looking at my pile Honestly, even though I did give it a 5 out of 5 stars, I still think my favorite was Girls with Sharp Sticks, because I was like high-key obsessed with that book while I was reading it, and it was one of those things where I could not stop thinking about it even after I finished it, and that's impressive. So I think that's my favorite that I read this month. But yeah, if you're new here, I would love it if you would subscribe and stick around. I put up at least 2 new videos every single week. All my social media is linked down below in the description if you want to come follow me elsewhere, as well as links to my book if you want to pick up a copy. And if you like this video, I'd appreciate it if you would give it a thumbs up. And I'll have links down below to all of the books and the videos and stuff that I mentioned. But other than that, I think I'll just see you guys in my next video very, very soon. Bye.
So hit me. So hit me. So hit me. First a confession. With you, I feel a connection. With